And we're back here at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago at the United Center. We're joined by Jeanna Repass, the chair of the Kansas Democratic Party. Jeanna, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So before we get into your assessment of night one, this is a standard question that I'm asking everybody. Why does this 2024 election matter to communities of color?
Well, for one thing, as a young black girl, I was told by my kindergarten teacher that black people couldn't be president.
Oh, you were told you couldn't be?
Could not be.
Because, the adage was always, you can be anything in the world, even president of the United States.
Unless
wink,
you're
wink.
black.
Okay.
Unless you're black. So growing up as a young black girl in South Texas, I was told we couldn't be president. So for us to not only nominate another black person, but a black woman means everything. It means the fulfillment of what we are here to do.
So the first night, incredibly powerful night. How did it impact you, and what resonated with you the most?
There were so many moments when Hillary Clinton came out, when Secretary Clinton came out, the amount of applause and how we just kept going and building. That's someone who always said to us, there is a glass ceiling for women. I always say for women of color, it's more like a cement ceiling. So she put those cracks in it, and we are going to bust through it with a black woman. So that stood out. And then, of course, when President Biden came out, I got a little choked up, got a little emotional. That's a
Why?
hero. Well, that's a hero. That's a real patriot. People have tried to co-opt the word patriot. Democrats are patriots. Black people are patriots. We've always loved this country. And I know this is cliche, but even when it didn't love us back, we've always stayed in the fight, knowing we could be better. So when Joe Biden stood up there, our president said, I'm going to step aside after all of his years of service. That's what heroism, that's what patriotism looks like. And it was emotional to see.
And anything else stood out to you, resonated with you?
Well, of course, when, Kamala Harris came out, I was all puffed up.
Were you surprised?
I was, actually. And as the chair of the state party, I get to sit by the phone, the phone that rings on the floor. And they said, just so you know, VP is coming out. You need to tell your delegation to be prepared. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is happening. So I was very surprised.
And so let's talk about the party in Kansas. How is the party? What does your delegation look like? And what are some of the issues that are important to the delegation in Kansas?
Thank you so much for asking. I'm very proud that the Kansas delegation looks like the diversity of the country. I know people think of Kansas as a very red state, a rural state, a very white state, but our delegation is very multicultural. We've got young people, we've got old people, we've got people of all colors. We were intentional about that. And what's important in Kansas right now is freedom. Kansas was the first state in the country after the Dobbs decision in 2022 to vote to enshrine abortion rights. And so we're the kind of Kansas conservative that says, mind your own business, as Tim Walz would say. So it's important to us to have freedoms.
Let's expand on that a bit because I believe the Republicans thought by sending it back to the states that was going to be their strong move, that was going to be the piece de resistance, so to speak. And what they found out is that the script is getting flipped on them because they pushed it down to the states, which means now the people actually get a chance, then from there we can get into all politics is local.
That's right.
But talk about the significance of that vote in Kansas.
Well, there's a fun phrase that says mess around and find out.
There you go.
I do believe that that's what happened. Now, what they were trying to do, though, is so many of our state legislatures have been gerrymandered,
right,
so that they are controlled by what I call a minority majority. So in Kansas, we have that. We have a majority of Republican, a super majority, which we are going to break this cycle, but they have a minority view. And the people of Kansas, even though they gerrymandered, and they put, by the way, that vote on a primary day where they thought turnout would be low. We came out in record numbers, and we defeated that amendment to try to take away abortion rights 60 to 40%.
You're talking about all politics being local. That's how I framed it.
Certainly.
But down ballot being very important. So how significant is this election to the down ballot in terms of your interest in Kansas?
I'm so excited about this election. We were going to be fighting. We are 2 seats shy in our House to break a supermajority. We have a Democratic governor, and we're 3 seats shy in the Senate. But unfortunately, when she vetoes bad legislation, Republicans can override her. So it forces us to have to work with them, and there are no more moderates. So we have to break that supermajority. We were going to be in a fight. We still are. But now having this new ticket, the energy and enthusiasm, we had so many people sign up to volunteer. We had people walking into some of our county offices bringing us checks for Vice President Harris. And we're like, great, we'll take it. I don't know what we're going to do with it, but we'll take it.
Just don't co-sign it.
Yeah, right.
Don't
write it out to me, but we'll get it somewhere.
You'll be fine. So the enthusiasm that you're feeling in a traditionally red state like Kansas, how bright do you see the future now?
If you can get Kansas excited, I think the future looks great. And Kansas is on fire. Republicans, independents, and of course all the Democrats. I've had so many Republicans come and say, I'm a Republican, but I'm voting for Kamala. Like, they are very excited.
So the stereotype of a Midwest state like Kansas would be the MAGA capital of the world. But that dynamic is shifting.
It is shifting. Well, I think people are tired. There is an exhaustion to being a part of the MAGA movement, but I will say this. My counterpart, the GOP chair, is a deep red MAGA Republican. He's a Donald Trump sycophant. So we do have that pocket. But there's so many more people who are just exhausted on it. It takes a lot of energy to be hateful. It takes a lot of energy to be mean and vitriolic. People want joy. People want to love their neighbor again. That's part of my message. It's okay to love your neighbor again.
Jeanna Repass, thank you so much. Chair of the Kansas Democratic Party. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us here at Politics in Color.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Folks, Politics in Color, join the conversation. This is where you want to be, politicsincolor.com. There's more. Stay tuned.